What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today I'm going to show you two different saxophone embouchures. Embouchure is the fancy musical term for the way your mouth goes around the mouthpiece. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you two different concepts, and the first one is the basic embouchure. The basic embouchure is the one that you learn as a beginner, but it's not necessarily a beginner embouchure. There are tons of pro musicians who sound great who continue to use this type of embouchure. The second embouchure is definitely more advanced, and you have to have more embouchure strength or lip muscle to be able to play with this type of embouchure, and it will give you a bigger, fatter, and fuller sound. Let's talk about the basic embouchure. With the basic embouchure, your bottom lip is covering your teeth, so you have the pink part of your lip covering the teeth. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to swallow your lip. You want the fat part of your lip over top of your teeth. So it'll look like this. And your top teeth are on the mouthpiece. So your bottom lip is covering your teeth and your top teeth are touching the mouthpiece. Your corners both go in. And that's pretty much it for your basic embouchure. It's actually pretty easy, and that's why it's really good for beginners. Your bottom lip is just basically covering your teeth, your top teeth are on the mouthpiece, and your corners are in. Now let's talk about how much mouthpiece you should take in. So if I take my neck off and look at it from the side and I close one eye, I can see that my reed is hitting the mouthpiece right here. Now this open area is called your tip opening. Now the placement of your bottom lip should go right where the reed is hitting the mouthpiece. So on my mouthpiece, it's right here. So my top teeth are gonna go here and my bottom lip is gonna go here. So I'm going right where the reed actually hits the mouthpiece past the tip opening. Now, if I put my saxophone on and I play a G scale with that mouthpiece placement, it's gonna sound really good. If I take in less mouthpiece, in other words, I go from where I normally would be, where the mouthpiece is hitting the reed, and I take in less mouthpiece, less reed is going to be vibrating, and when less reed vibrates, I'm going to get a stuffier sound. So this is what a scale would sound like if I take in less mouthpiece. You can hear that the pitch is a little off, that the air is having a problem getting through the saxophone, and just everything sounds really stuffy. So this is taking in too little. And this is taking in the right amount, so I'm going to take in right where the reed hits the mouthpiece. It makes a really big difference in your sound if you take in the correct amount of mouthpiece. Now, you might be thinking, if more reed vibrating is a good thing, why not take in even more mouthpiece so that more reed vibrates? And here's what that sounds like. Sounds terrible. So it kind of sounds like a beginner saxophone player. And the reason for that is because too much reed is vibrating and I have no control over it. So you don't want too little vibrating because then it's going to sound stuffy and cut off and closed off. But if you have too much vibrating, you can't control it. So you want your mouth placement right where the reed is hitting the mouthpiece. Now let's talk about the more advanced embouchure. Before I talk about this, I just want to be very clear that the basic embouchure is not necessarily only for beginners. There are tons of pro saxophone players who use that embouchure. So the one I'm getting ready to show you that is more advanced isn't necessarily going to be better for everyone. It just depends on what kind of sound you're going for. I use the type of embouchure I'm getting ready to show you, and it's called the rolled out lip embouchure. And it's called that because you roll your lip out, and when you do that, it lets the reed vibrate more freely and you get a bigger, fatter, fuller sound, and that's the type of saxophone sound that I like. So everything is the same with your embouchure except for your bottom lip. So your top teeth are still on the mouthpiece, your corners are still in, you're still taking in the same amount of mouthpiece. The only difference is instead of your lip covering your bottom teeth like this, you get this, where you can see more of this is rolled out as opposed to just covering. So a really good way to figure out how to do it is you can put the mouthpiece in your mouth and then pull it out a little bit. So it'll look like this. So when I pull it out, I get more of the fat part of my lip over my teeth, and it lets the reed have more freedom to vibrate and gives me a much bigger, fatter, fuller sound. So this is what my saxophone sounds like when I use the rolled out lip embouchure. And this is what it sounds like when I use the basic embouchure. So they both sound good, but the rolled out lip is just fatter and fuller. So it gives me a wider dynamic range, and it just gives me more control over my tone. So here's a playing example with me playing the basic embouchure. And with my lip rolled out. So when you roll that bottom lip out, it just gives you a lot bigger, more full sound. So again, you want to think about putting the saxophone in your mouth and pulling it out a little bit. And that's going to give you that rolled out lip embouchure. Now, if you start using the rolled out lip embouchure, in the beginning, you're probably going to have a lot of squawks and squeaks because it's new. It might take you a good week or two to make the transition. But if you're looking for a bigger, fatter, fuller sound, switching to this type of embouchure is definitely going to do it. And as you can tell by my description, it's not a huge change, but it's going to feel very different from having your lip just over your teeth to rolled out over your teeth, and having a little bit more lip muscle over your teeth where you have more control over the way things are vibrating and the way the air is going into your saxophone. So who should use which embouchure? If you're fairly new to the saxophone and you've been playing for a year or less, you definitely want to use the basic embouchure. For the rolled out lip embouchure, you have to have a lot more embouchure strength or lip muscle for that to work. If you try to start off with your lip rolled out, you're not going to have very much success with it. Now, when it comes to the basic embouchure, that is the embouchure that we teach beginners, but there are tons of pro players who use it. And mostly they are jazz guys who want an old school, darker sound. So if you're looking for an old school jazz darker sound, the basic saxophone embouchure might be the embouchure that you would prefer. If you're looking for a more modern sound with a bigger, fatter, fuller sound, then rolling out your lip is definitely going to help you get there. So those are our two saxophone embouchure concepts, and the big difference between the two is what you do with your bottom lip. So whichever embouchure you choose to use, just make sure that you're taking in the correct amount of mouthpiece, and that will give you a nice, big, full saxophone sound.